You're listening to Tipped Off, where leaders across the service industry share insights on operations, tech, and team success, powered by TipHaus.
All right, welcome everyone to another Tipped Off podcast. And today, very, very honored to not only have a customer of ours, but a close friend, Ryan Kellerman from Huse Culinary. Ryan, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us just a little bit about Huse Culinary, family of brands, and your role there?
Yeah. I'm Ryan Kellerman. I work for Huse Culinary. I'm the digital solutions manager. Huse Culinary is a 6-location fine dining restaurant concept out of Indianapolis, Indiana. We've got 4 concepts. Our flagship brand is St. Elmo's Steakhouse, which most people that have ever traveled to Indianapolis would know most likely what that is and has probably been there. Best shrimp cocktail in the country. We also have Harry and Izzy's, 1933 Lounge, and HC Tavern and Kitchen. We are all around the Indianapolis market in the suburbs and Indianapolis as a main city. As a digital solutions manager, I just work in the IT department, oversee all the digital solutions, try to go out and find new software and anything that would work for the restaurant business and take it back to the leadership if I think it's important or have something in my back pocket. So if they come to me and say, hey, I want to do this, I can be like, hey, I've talked to these people before. So it's kind of what I try to drive myself for. So
I love it, and I love the confidence to say the best shrimp cocktail in the country. At your own steakhouse is in Indianapolis. That's a confident statement right there.
Well, that's what we believe in. So
hey, I love it, and I will be the judge of that when I come and visit you up there. So I'm looking forward to it, man. Tell me, on your side, restaurant industry always changing. Of course, rapid changes right now on the labor law side, wage pressures, compliance requirements. Not just an operations challenge, right? I think there's probably pieces on the technology side that can help or that at least you are tasked with. What does that look like? Technology perspective, are you helping to shift these influences? Are you being influenced by them and having to react? What does it look like on the tech side when you're looking at a group of your size and trying to navigate these challenges?
100%. I mean, I think we're all being challenged with this, and it's significantly impacting the industry across the board. For us, we constantly looking to see what we can do out there to help with those things. Obviously, a few years ago, we found TipHaus, which was obviously a good segue into helping with that, but continuing to, it's not just, I guess, there was a time where compliance was, and these laws were just kind of like a legal checkbox, I guess, or whatever. And it's kind of a little bit more imperative to be a little bit more strategic about that and just not worry about just the legal side of it. Because you obviously have to make your staff happy and you got to make sure it works for both sides. But there is constantly regulatory changes. We are somewhat currently, we're only in Indianapolis, Indiana, so we only have one state to worry about, but we are getting ready to expand next year into Arizona with a location. So a whole new list of compliance laws and stuff like that we're learning up on right now and trying to make sure we're prepared for and ready for as well. So
I love it. Well, normally I don't catch myself off guard with all things Ryan Kellerman, but tell me a little bit about this. What you looking at in Arizona?
Yeah, so we're going to put a Harry and Izzy's. That's one of our concepts there that I mentioned. We're going to put a Harry and Izzy's in Paradise Valley, which is right next, right there by Phoenix and the suburbs there. So we're looking to try to open in August of next year around that time.
Just when it's at 120 degrees, I like your style. No, that'll be great, man. Get them a cocktail to cool down. I'm really happy to hear the multi-state expansion, man. That's huge.
Yeah, it's exciting. And our plan out there is to open Harry and Izzy's and then try to open probably a couple 1933 Lounge locations, which is, one of our other brands that we really think that can work out there. And we'll bring those out there within a few years after that as well. So
that's awesome, man. Arizona's a great state, obviously growing rapidly for the restaurant scene, and the suburbs are blowing up. So
yes,
I maybe will get to there before I get back to Indianapolis. We'll see. I'm in Arizona periodically, so I'd love to see you out there, man. Tell me, you're chatting digital solutions management, and what that looks like. What does your current tech stack look like? Like, what systems or tools have been impactful for you? What do you like? Tech stacks are obviously a very hot topic right now with everyone being forced to kind of jump on that train and find things that work. So what is working for you at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with, I'm a big believer that you find the software that works for you, and it's not always about an all-in-one solution. I think the industry has went both ways on that, and I don't say anything wrong about an all-in-one solution, but I do think it's all about what works for you. So if it means it takes 10 pieces of software to do that, then you got to do that. And so currently we use Toast as our POS. we've been extremely happy with that. We switched to them about 3 years ago. We obviously use TipHaus for our tip management, automation of tip distribution. We use UKG for our HCM, human capital management, payroll, things like that. So we use them. Hot Schedules for scheduling. We brought on Bicky for a customer data platform to kind of understand our customers better. We do not have a loyalty program currently. So we kind of brought on Bicky to kind of learn our customers better. But we are segueing into possibly having a loyalty program and launching that early next year. We use Beekeeper for a communication tool to our staff. So, I mean, we have a whole list of, a tech stack, but again, looking for things that actually work and not trying to, crunch it all into one. So.
I love that. And I think, agreed. It goes back and forth. Should we go an all in one, keep everything confined, or should we really go best in breed and make sure we understand how to use it? I have seen, I tend to agree with you on the find what is best for you. If that happens to be an all in one solution, you're lucky, right? Great.
Yep.
If not, you're going to be asking your staff to make compromises, your management teams to make compromises. Like there's going to be gaps, and that can be inefficiencies, that can be frustrations. But how do you navigate that side of it? Like when you're making the analysis on this tool, what is your kind of check boxes that you're looking to make sure that it accomplishes to say, yes, this is worth implementing, this is worth going forward with?
I mean, the first thing is integrations, right? Like, is it an automatic integration, or is it going to be a manual pull, or is it going to be those type of things? So that's the first thing to look at. Again, just something to know. It's also is obviously a leg up if it is a full-on integration, and you don't have to build something, but it is nice to know if it does have some type of integration there. And then really it comes down just to possibly reducing manual errors, or whatever it's going to do to help give more visibility to certain departments, or staff, or even hourly stewards, or even the management. So it just depends on how it streamlines their workflow. I always start with operations. I didn't mention earlier, but I was a server and a bartender and a manager in my previously in a different restaurant group for years, and so I really focus on operations and how that's going to impact that. The restaurant operators are the ones that make the money, right? They're there every day. They're the ones producing the sales for the restaurant. So really important to understand how it's going to impact them and what's going to change in their day-to-day life if we introduce that new piece of software. So
I think that's a great checkbox for all the listeners to follow, man. I really appreciate you walking it through it. Tell me, while we're looking at restaurant technology, what are the biggest ROI opportunities out in the space right now? And particularly, from your lens, if you're looking at multi-unit complex, multi-unit, multi-concept groups like yourself, like where do you see a Ryan Kellerman at a different organization? Where should they start looking to find some ROI and to improve their restaurant?
Well, I mean, it starts with analyzing your tech stack first, trying to figure out where maybe you do have some open gaps, or where you're trying to go. Obviously step back and really look at it. I definitely think an area that most people would always say is data. Like, how can you utilize the data you have? Trying to find a data analytics platform of some sort. If it's already in your all-in-one solution, or if it's in your current solutions, how do you take that and really make faster decisions with it? I think that is smarter, faster decisions are what is important to operations and to any business, but especially the restaurant business, because we are a very fast-paced, moving, all that kind of stuff. I think right now, obviously, there's a saying out there called AI, which everyone knows about. And so I think there's a huge push for some type of machine learning in your systems. And I think you just have to step back and really decide what type of restaurant you are and how that can fit into your environment and not impact it in a bad way. Because you can't forget that we are in the restaurant business, and hospitality is the number one thing. And a lot of people don't want to talk to a robot. And so how do you use AI in areas that maybe can take some pressure off of hourly stewards and staff at your restaurants, or whatever, to try to make things better for the customer? So
I love that. I'm going to ask you a follow-up. So I just gave a presentation on this at lovely Prosper Conference for anyone who is attending. But the concept there being keeping culture alive in an era of technology and efficiency gains, right? And what my big preaching point is always is to use technology to enhance, not replace, right? I completely agree that I am not interested in ordering at a kiosk and not interacting with a human. I'm not particularly interested in ordering through my phone after scanning a QR code and paying and having one touch interaction where someone drops off my food, doesn't refill my drink, and carries on. So when you think of AI or kind of this advancement, what are you looking for? Like, what is a sign? Because I know AI is, well, generally all encompassing now, right? Anything that may or may not have machine learning is suddenly AI.
Hmm.
What does it look like from your end? Are there any projects that you're willing to disclose that you're looking at bringing in? Are there avenues that you're looking at using your internal data for training and ML? What does that play into?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think the area that I think from a fine dining restaurant that we are, obviously, again, really important hospitality segment that we gotta keep. I have been looking at AI driven phone systems where they can take the AI engine can take maybe the phone call, maybe can make the reservation into OpenTable, which OpenTable is another part of our tech stack. So maybe having that AI on the phone system doing that for us in the background doesn't replace a host at the host stand, but it also helps them take care of the customer that's right in front of their face. So
Agreed.
I think that is an area that we probably, in a lot of restaurants, I think could take advantage of. Another one for us too, that some of these systems can do, and there's other ones that can do it as well, is how can you utilize an AI engine to help with private parties? Same idea with reservations, but can it take the lead and can it ask all the right questions and get all the information so that our private party manager can just focus on the hospitality side of making the phone call, the last minute phone, that last call to say, okay, I've got all your details now. Can we make this, can we solidify this reservation or this private party? So I think those are the two that I'm looking at right now. But I think everyone has the tools right now with either Copilot or Chat GPT or whatever, using your current data that you have, either from Toast or whatever, and putting it into an AI engine you can leverage these AI tools out there. You just got to be careful with security and things like that, which is also scary. But you see it, every system is trying to get into the AI thing.
Absolutely.
And I get it, but you're right. Some are saying that it's AI and it's not really machine learning or anything like that. It's just they're plopping the AI on the end of it because it makes people excited. So it just depends. But yeah, I think the big area, you're right. I think I relate the kiosk thing to the hatred of self checkouts at grocery stores. People hate those. And you hear about it all the time. And I'm like, well, then you go into a restaurant and you see people using kiosk. I'm like, that's the exact same thing. It's what people don't like. They want to have some interaction. They don't want to have to do all the work. So I think we have to find a fine line there. I do think that can work and people are okay with that, but trying to bleed in even robotics, that's a scary one too, is, the idea of having a robot run around your family dining restaurant.
Yep.
I don't think people want that. I just don't think people want that.
A little too far ahead of the time. My local
Yeah.
convenience store and gas station that I stop at for Red Bulls or to grab gas, it's got one that cleans the floor, and it's hilarious. I mean, but
I mean,
it works, and for a convenience store, I completely understand it. But it is still, it's always that awkward. I walk in, and it's got a little smile on its face on its screen, and it announces when someone comes near that, watch out, I'm cleaning here. It's like,
yeah.
I'm the customer, that's all right.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is making sure that you analyze it, and like you said earlier, is not replace. It's not. You don't want to scare your staff. Like you don't want your stewards and your hourly employees or your management to think that you're trying to replace someone. So the example of the phone AI systems, it's not to replace a host. It's there to be a secondary person to help them really, and that's all it's there to do. We're not looking to lower labor. We're not looking at it from a labor perspective. We're looking at it from an efficiency standpoint. And could that host be more focused on the hospitality side of like calling our guests that already have a reservation, like, hey, I see that you are coming in to celebrate a birthday tonight. We can't wait for you to be here. So it's bringing that, you can have that host do those things over the top of those exceptional things in hospitality versus them taking phone calls and just making reservations. They can do more.
I love it. Yeah. Adding more hospitality to it, right? I mean, we're getting into an increasingly digital age and increasingly time where we're losing the third space, right? Outside of home and work, where do you go? Restaurants and bars are still one of those voids, right? Where you go to have a conversation, you go to be around people. If I wanted to just eat a meal in silence, I would stay home. That's perfectly acceptable. So you brought something up in there that I want to touch on, Ryan. You mentioned the word security in regards to AI, in regards to obviously everything being cloud-based, right? I mean, it's no secret there have been breaches, there have been a number of things. So your role, I'd imagine it is a critical part of your role, despite the fact that it's going to be an often overlooked one, is going to be on that security side. And I'm sure it's as usual. There's no praise when you get it right. If you get it wrong, everyone and their mother knows. So tell me, from that standpoint, like, what are the challenges restaurants face uniquely that most people wouldn't consider or think about, whether that's the data, the payments, the employee information? What are they? How do you approach them? What's changing with all the technology coming in?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything you just mentioned, right? Like it's scary because everything is cloud-based. So you're basically handing your data over to all these different companies, and almost all of most people's tech stacks now are cloud-based, right? And so
Absolutely.
Toast is cloud-based and Vicky is cloud-based. All these things are cloud-based. So really having those discussions when you talk to a possible new partner with your business, and just making sure that you understand what their security standpoints are and where they stand, and then internally just making sure, I mean, even though you can still have Toast and you're taking chip and pin, chips, and it's hopefully point to point encryption, all those things, you still have to have good network security and really protect that stuff, and really watch out for any of those things and keep things up to date. And in our situation, what we did when we went with Toast, I made the decision to go with their networking side, and I pulled basically the POS out of our internal network. And the reason being is
Oh,
I wanted to take that PCI compliance kind of away from my internal admin network. And so we were running two different networks because of that. And so that was kind of and we run a cellular backup on the Toast side as well on that network, just to make sure that it's always up and running and we never lose connection. But trying to keep it separate from our internal stuff. But just customer data and employee data is also extremely, and really it comes down to just the phishing scams that are out there now, and making sure you educate your management and staff that someone by the name of the CEO of Craig Hughes, which is our CEO, could email you, but make sure you double check that it's really Craig, right? Don't send something out, don't do something. Really, just education is also a very important part of security and making sure that systems stay secure.
agreed, right? I mean, humans are often the actual flaw in the system, as much as we hate to admit it. It's very rarely the system itself that gets broached. It is
Yes,
typically us and our busy schedules.
we
And
allow them in somehow, like because
yep,
we don't understand it, so everybody
no,
just going fast and not paying attention. So
I love it. And you mentioned, you like to vet your vendors. Are you looking for things like SOC 2 compliance? Are you actually reviewing through their security protocols? To what level of in depth are you taking that with your vendors that you work with?
yeah, it just depends on what exactly they're doing, but both of those situations really just have serious conversations with them about that kind of stuff. It probably just depends on what that type of vendor is or what they're going to do for us. But yes, I mean, just asking them, where their stuff's located, what are they doing, what kind of security they have on the back end of protecting the data and stuff like that. So now I might start asking if they house all their data at AWS, because obviously, that was fun. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The AWS outage is always a good time. You
yeah,
realize how few companies run the entirety of the internet, right?
yeah.
And you get to see exactly who uses AWS. So that's a nice little competitive analysis for the groups out there. If a business was open, they are not. So I love it, man. Switching gears real quick, I want to chat TipHaus selfishly, let's call it. But you've been a great customer of ours for years. It is a delight to get together with you at conferences, and we've seemingly worked very, very well together. But tell me what that looks like besides us charming you and grabbing drinks with you. What does your tip management process look like? Where did it start before TipHaus? Tell me a little bit on that front.
Yeah, I mean, TipHouse has been what I think is a game changer for us. I mean, we did have a solution previously that helped us with some of our tip distribution. It just didn't go to the level that TipHouse allows us to do. It really just reduced some errors that we were having, and also the transparency, I think, is what I always hit on for the staff to be able to see, how they did and what kind of tips they're producing, all that kind of stuff. I think is huge. They didn't have that previously, so that's been huge. And then we also do a lot of teaming, and we have a lot of parties and things like that. And those parts, even though, so I think those are some things that are overlooked from a tip management solution, but that's huge. I mean, the creativity of that section of your guys' software and what we can do with it sometimes is just, it's awesome. Like, I mean, I know it makes it so much more flexible, being able to move things around and get people the money they need, if it depending on how that transaction went down. So it really has been a game changer in multiple areas. It's improved the morale of the staff, in my opinion. It's helped operations just be more streamlined. It's kept us out of the tips from a management standpoint, really. And so I think it's being able to show a clear audit to our staff and know what's going on, and transparency, like I said, like just them able to see exactly where it's going, who's getting it, and what they're doing. And then they can also send that extra money. We do allow them to do the peer-to-peer, which has been, they love that. So
Good.
I think all those things have really helped us. So
I love it, man. And tell me, so we've run into some situations, and I've encountered this over the 6-year career here. Some groups seem to fear transparency, and we've never once had a group that actually rolled it out and then came back and said, you know what, I was right. But it does seem that some groups say, well, if my employees know exactly how much they're making and maybe how much they're contributing to pools, things might fall apart. Our view has always been, once they actually see it, it maybe takes 24 hours of awkwardness for them to realize, but then they realize they're not being cheated out of it. They're not, they're earning exactly what they want, that they understand who's contributing, who's not. It seems to be a great piece on that. But tell me a little bit on your end, because I completely agree. Transparency is something we preach. It's something we live by over here. But run me through, was there any hesitations on your side, your team member's side, of opening up the books, let's say, and actually letting the staff really understand their tips, how they make their livelihoods, et cetera?
There was no hesitation, to be honest with you. When we did our first demo call with you guys, I remember walking away with that from a couple people that were on that demo call with me. And that was one of the first things we all said, oh, that transparency is super cool. I think it just opens the door to have a better relationship with your, hourly stewards that are in the building. And they can, really understand what that we're not doing anything really other than this is what the system's doing. It's all automated in the background, and here's what we're doing, right? So, and we have special events throughout the year that we do special things within TipHaus, and they actually see that too, right? Because they can see
Absolutely.
what rules we've added for those special events. And so it really has, we didn't have any hesitation, but I do understand. I think probably 10 years ago, I might have been like, ooh, I don't know if I like that, right?
Sure.
But I think things have changed so much in the industry that I think transparency wins the game when it comes to your hourly staff. Like it just makes them understand that you're there for them and that we're in this together and we want to be transparent with them. So
I love that. I couldn't agree more. And that's kind of our approach to it is, end of the day, if you're doing things even halfway right, transparency is only an asset to you, right? Open the doors, let the conversations happen. Nothing gets better sitting in the darkness, right? So make sure we're bringing those to light, and I appreciate it. Ryan, you are obviously an expert at what you do. You run the solution side of it. You manage the vendors. You play with the entire piece. You keep the operations team running smoothly. Despite being an expert, there's always times and efforts to learn more. And if people are listening and they want to say, I want to learn how Ryan learns, what's your way and how do you focus on that? Is that, it's something that you go lean on internal team members and you have mentors or people around you? Do you have advisors outside? Do you get involved in industry groups or networks? What does that look like? And where's your source of information coming from?
all the above. I like to listen to everybody really. First I like to identify where the pain point is with the internal stakeholders and operations and stuff like that. But I have definitely a lot of mentors from my past life that I go and talk to and try to get what they're doing and go out and talk to the industry and people that I know and figure out what they're doing in those situations. I also like to help them, right, and be there for them when things come up and tell them where to go as well. So, I think you just have to really use your peer networks. Continuing to do vendor demos. Like I said earlier in the call, my idea is to have things in my back pocket that I can just say, hey, I've actually had a demo with these people before. I told them I was just really wanting to understand their software. That was it. But now that you brought this to my attention, hey, I think this will work. Or here's the 5 things. So I constantly like to have things in my back pocket for if someone comes to me, I can be like, hey, yes, we should talk to these 2 different companies and what's vet them and make a decision. So I think it's really important to constantly keep learning from the industry and never say no to anyone that wants to show you something. Like you just take your time, take the 30 minutes. You can say no that you're not interested right now, but you might be in the future, right? So it's very important to constantly keep looking. So
You are the first guest that has given that answer, and I genuinely love that because it is something, and thank you for being upfront with them. I'll say, as a tech vendor, thank you for giving the salesman a heads up, hey, I'm not actually going to be buying, but I am looking to learn, and in the future it may benefit you.
Yeah.
But it's just a killer piece to know, even just what's out there, right? That you may not even know that there is a problem there. But to your point, if you hear a keyword in a conversation in the future that leads you to believe there is a problem, now you have a potential solution, or at least an avenue to explore and define it. I think so many of these problems just kind of sit because we're not using the right words, and we've never looked for a solution. So we're going to pretend that there isn't one out there.
And it's also, it is really important to involve the right internal stakeholders when you actually are trying to make that decision too. I think I've seen it even with myself in my past and currently, where people might be vetting something new and they don't get all the right people involved. And sometimes, like you just said, some questions might not be asked right, or a question from a vendor might come your way and you might answer it a way that you thought was right, but then after they respond, or you might hear something, you might, oh, you know what, that's not actually what we're looking for, or that's not what I meant. So I think it's just really important to make sure that you truly go through the full process and don't just sign the dotted line right away. Have multiple calls, have multiple discussions, really figure out a rollout. I'm also a big believer of, even if we are going to sign, I'm going to take my time. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we can get you turned around in 48 hours, or, and 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm always like, well, let's do this the right way. Let's not be disruptive. I'm someone, being an old school restaurant guy, like, I freak out if we do anything past Wednesday in a restaurant. Like, when people want to do stuff on a Thursday and a Friday, I'm like, no, why would we do that? We're in the restaurant business. And I think Wednesday's even pushing it sometimes. So we're in an industry that's so fast paced. You just got to be really, have your mind, your ducks in a row, and roll things out correctly so that you're not disruptive to everybody, and also know where things are connected, right? Like, if you're moving from a POS system to another POS system, where are your gift cards? Where's your loyalty? All those type of things, and understanding, hey, if I switch this, I might break this, this, and this. So really understanding what you're going to break and how you're going to fix those before you get there. And then you're like, oh, I don't have any of those things.
I love it. With that, not that you have not given fabulous advice, but if you had to synthesize, one piece of advice for other restaurant leaders, IT professionals out there navigating all of the things you are: growth, compliance, digital transformation, AI, all of it that's occurring. What's your one piece of advice that you think most listeners would most benefit from?
I kind of mentioned a second ago, I think start with the end in mind. Like, what do you want the end result to be? And then go backwards from there. So define what that is, and what either success of a new, software, or if it's success of changing something better for operations, or efficiency, or compliance, or readiness, or guest satisfaction,
Sure.
hospitality, all those things. Start with what you want to end up looking like, and then build back from that and look at your tech strategy and really understand, hey, does this actually align with that end result? Is this going to align with every single department's goal and culture? And, is it scalable? And, especially if you're in the mindset of growing like we are, how does this scale? And you always have to remember, especially when we're 6 restaurants, we're definitely fast paced, a lot going on, but if we want to open 3 more in Arizona, that's 2,000 plus miles away, we got to know how to scale that correctly now, because I can't drive to every single one of those locations out there like I can right now. So you just got to be really mindful of how you go about and prioritize all that stuff. Yeah.
I love it. No, I think that's great advice. And I think so much advantage in having worked in a restaurant, right? You can help put yourself in shoes and know who the stakeholders are. Who is this actually going to impact? Because I see so often, oh, well, this will impact operations. It's like, well, it's also going to impact payroll and accounting, and it will definitely impact the front of line employees, right? Like, there's a lot more nuance to it than I think we often, we're looking for it to solve one problem, not recognizing how far reaching those tentacles are, right? So I think.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Because I think people, and I get it, you work in departments, right? You have HR, you got accounting, you got IT, and you got operations. And the one real important thing there is everything affects everything. Like,
Yeah.
everything does. And the ultimate goal is operations, right? It is in-store operations, right? So what can we do as a global company to impact that? But we have to do it in a very strategic way and work together across departments. because every piece of software or every piece of anything in the restaurant business affects every single department. And if you do something in my department, I promise you, if it's POS related or whatever, it is 100% going to affect
Sure.
accounting. It
Sure.
might even affect HR. And if you don't get them involved or at least put them in the loop, I've been there. It's not fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No one likes to be on the bad side of HR, particularly.
no,
HR and accounting.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the same thing goes for, you don't want to do something and operations comes back and says, hey, this isn't working for us, right? We didn't understand this or whatever. So just being really clear and define the process is really important. So
I think that's great advice for it, man. I've got some standard questions I ask every guest, and I am particularly curious as to what we get out of this. So, first and foremost, always, I want to know what's your favorite restaurant concept or brand out there right now? Of course, it cannot be yours, so I will say, Huse Culinary is off the table. But what is it, and why is it your favorite? What's it doing to stand out to you?
I travel a lot. So I would say I have a lot. And I could probably name off tons depending on where I'm going or what I'm doing. Locally outside of Huse Culinary, there's a restaurant concept here in town called Bodhi. It's a Thai craft cocktail bar,
Ooh,
bistro in downtown Indianapolis on Mass Ave. I'm a huge fan. They don't take reservations, so you have to show up and get there very early. But their food is just amazing. Service is amazing. Their cocktails are great. The atmosphere is cool. It's a family-run, woman-owned restaurant establishment. It's just really cool. If you ask a lot of people in town, what's their favorite, they're most likely going to mention Bodhi. It's extremely popular. But if I'm going outside of here in Chicago, I'm a big fan of a lot of Let Us Entertain You restaurants in Chicago. Summer House Santa Monica is probably one of my favorite restaurants and concepts in Chicago. But yes, I could probably name one in every city for sure.
I
But
love that, man. A man who's well traveled and well versed in food, and that's the life of it, man.
yeah,
That's a good answer, though. I like anything that's local, independent, and just doing something unique. I love the idea of you're busy enough, you don't need reservations, don't overcomplicate it. The guests that you want there will be willing to wait, and that's that, right? And it's kind of the end of the story. So, tell me two industry trends: one that you believe in and that you plan to embrace personally, and then one you don't buy. Let's call it, that's a fad. By the time we even got it adopted, it would have faded out of existence. What are the two that you see? One that you're taking on, one that you're going to let slide by.
I'm going to start with the one I'll let slide by just
Sure.
because it's fresh. I think I mentioned it a second ago. Is I think that I'm very cautious about any type of automation or robotics in the front of house of a restaurant. I think that's a trend, and I think it's starting to maybe fade. And I think it was a trend that started a few years ago, especially COVID. I get it, really spirited that up a little bit, and I still think it's out there. You can't replace a server. I'm sorry.
Agreed.
Yes, you can give a server a tablet, like a Toast handheld, and I'm a huge believer behind that, and I think that's one that I would say I'm a huge I want to be a trendsetter on that, and I really want from the idea that when we went to look at Toast, we were really at first we were like, can we really have our servers at St. Elmo's Steakhouse, fine dining, really well-known establishment in Indianapolis and around the country, people know about it. Can we have our servers use a handheld at the table? And at first we're like, well, I don't know, we're not sure. And we decided to go all in, and our staff loves it. Our guests love it. So I think that's a cool trend. That's a way you can bring tech
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the restaurant and make it successful. But anything robotics wise or anything like that, especially in full dining restaurants, I just don't. I'm totally not into that. The automation of that stuff. I think from a trend that I'm excited about is the continuation of AI and what it can do for us. Like I mentioned, the phone system or private parties. How can you use AI to drive better decision making with your data? Obviously, why spend all this time on spreadsheets now when a lot of it you can get an AI engine to do it for you? I think restaurants should continue to invest, if they're looking at a data stack, is really invest in some type of data analytics, really focus on that data and how you're going to use it, and find a solution that fits you. There's a lot of them out there, and really make sure that you're using it to really build deeper relationships, not just with your internal staff, but guests, and how do you make decisions for menu and all that kind of stuff? Because obviously, we're having a lot of pressure from a cost standpoint with food and
Absolutely.
everything like that, right? So using that data the best you can. So
I love that. I mean, particularly the idea of like, imagine every guest has a personalized greeting from a hostess as they're walking in. Imagine every guest, server knows what dishes to recommend and what they're most likely to enjoy. And we're sliding to a place like that. And then, of course, you touch on the operations back office. Like, there is so much, and the restaurant industry is, as much as I hate to say it, traditionally very a laggard of the adoption. So I am keen to see what groups get out there and make it a very approachable, ease of access use. Everyone's tagging AI everything. We'll see who's, understands the meaning of that versus who's looking to raise another funding round, let's say, and we'll go from there with it. But tell me, greatest challenges restaurants are facing today. And I want to preface this as always, which my next question will be the greatest challenge restaurants are facing in 3 years. So I want a short-term view, a near-term, what's going on today? How are you countering it or embracing it or, finding opportunities within? And then what do you see coming down the road? What keeps you up at night for a few years from now?
yeah, I mean, definitely, I think a real big one right now, obviously, I think I mentioned this thing goes cost, right? I mean, that's a current issue for almost every restaurant is how do we keep the guests coming in? Obviously, everyone has to probably take price increases, but how do you do that without, irritating your customers? So really trying to find that fine line between, making good costs and really structuring that correctly. Same thing, the pressure of labor, right? And how do you pay your employees the right amount of money to really get the best hospitality that you need? But all the cost is a huge pressure in the current moment. It always is, but I think right now it's a little bit more than it has been for sure. So
yeah, it's not a casual pass on to the customer anymore, right? I mean, it's kind of a split the cost or eat some of it. I mean, it's brutal, and restaurants are certainly facing and struggling with it. And hopefully, some relief coming here soon. We'll see as beef prices and other things adjust as overall food chain, kind of adapts. But that makes sense to me. And when you're looking 3 years from now, what's coming that you can kind of already see? You don't know the challenge perfectly yet, but you see that there's something there, and it will present a challenge to the restaurant industry.
I mean, I think it's one of the things we've been mentioning this whole time, and it's kind of on the AI bandwagon. It's
Yep.
balancing the rapid technology innovation that's happening, not just in our industry, but in the real in general. But we're in the hospitality business. So how do you balance this rapid technology stuff in your business, but not take away the human element, which is hospitality that people really love, and that's why they go out to eat. And they don't go out to eat to talk to a robot, like I said earlier.
Yep.
So really trying to, I think that's going to continue to be a challenge. And how do you balance that correctly with hospitality in mind? And always know that that's the number one thing is hospitality. And how can you add those tools to still have, the hospitality driven part, but also, people want an emotional connection too, right? In the restaurant
Yep.
business. And so trying to really grasp all of those and trying to find that seamless tech stack that can help with those things, but not take away the personal part of hospitality. So
I think that's a great one. I think it's something that people think is a challenge today, but we're in the infancy of AI, right? Like
yeah,
it will be more dominant, more prominent, more in your face as we grow. And restaurant owners, operators, managers, they're going to be the ones that have to draw the line, right? What is too far? What is it that we're looking for? So I think that is killer. And
well, you said it too. The restaurant industry is somewhat of a hard nut to crack, I guess
yeah,
I would say, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
we don't like change. A lot of operators don't, and so it currently is already a challenge. But since a lot of us are slow movers to this innovation, I think it's going to take a few years before it really is in our face, and we have to make a decision about it, right? Like, right, you don't have to make a decision just yet about it, and you maybe can start, putting your feelers out there and maybe grab a piece of software that does some of that stuff for you. But in 3 years from now, I think it's going to be unreal. Like it's the fast pace of AI and automation and how it's doing and what it's doing in machine learning, just what it's just in the last year and a half or year is insane. And how do you take that pressure of everyone like, oh, we need this AI engine to do this and we need all this to, well, don't forget, by the way, we're hospitality. So let's not remove that from that. So, but there's areas that you can find that, especially with marketing and like I said, all those other things. So
Couldn't agree more. I mean, as we seek efficiency, we can't let empathy, be a casualty, right? Like that.
100%.
And that is a fear that exists. So With that, Ryan, I cannot thank you enough. Again, Ryan Kellerman out of Huse Culinary. If you are in Indianapolis, please swing by, check in out, ask for Ryan. I can promise you a very memorable evening. If you're fortunate enough to catch him when he's available, you'll have one too many cocktails and have a few great conversations. So Ryan, thank you again. I can't thank you enough, man.
I appreciate it, Kirk. Thank you so much for being a great partner of ours.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Tipped Off, the podcast for the service industry. For more tools and insights, visit TipHaus.com.